Beck. Thank the gentleman from Missouri, and I'll recognize the gentlelady from Vermont.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, we're talking today about a constitutional requirement that spending has to equal revenue. But what Republicans are not saying, but which we all know, is that this means you're going to have to cut Social Security, Medicare, food assistance, and other programs that regular people rely on. And as a member of the Budget Committee, I have spent 3 years on conversations like this. And all the while watching Republicans continue to balloon the national debt to finance tax cuts for people who don't actually need them. Can we all finally admit, once and for all, that tax cuts do not trickle down? And all you have to do is ask regular people who can't afford their groceries right now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, so here we go again, folks, with another Democrat coming in thinking that they know everything and that they know Republicans and how to put your fiscal house in order. This lady is insane, if you ask me. Like, okay, so what are we talking about here, lady? Like, you lumped in, like, welfare and SNAP with Social Security and Medicare and Medicaid and all this. Like, hang on just a second. Those are very different programs right there. Like, sure, look, I get Medicare and Medicaid. That's government subsidized health care, essentially. And it's kind of like an entitlement, right? But Social Security is a little bit different, right? Because Social Security, we pay into that our entire lives, right? And then we get back what we pay in, essentially. But, you know, like SNAP and all this other yes, why not? Why not cut these programs? Once again, you know, when you put people on the government teat, if you will, they get dependent on that government teat, and then they don't know how to go out and get food for themselves. We learn this with animals, for goodness sakes. When you take an animal in, you put them in a freaking zoo or something like that, and then later try to release that animal back into the wild, come to find out they've become reliant on humans for sustenance, and, you know, they can't find their own food anymore. That is exactly what we are doing with our government and our tax dollars with this SNAP and all these other entitlement programs, for goodness sakes. Like, yes, we need to cut a lot of this back. That should only be for the most needy and only temporary, right? It was always meant to be temporary. This was never meant to be life-sustaining aid, for goodness sakes. These people are absurd. And look, she starts talking about, oh, well, you know, can we all just agree that tax cuts for the rich don't trickle down? Like, what are you talking about here, lady? Like, trickle-down economics is a lot more than just tax cuts or tax breaks for the wealthy, for goodness sakes. Like, use your brain, person. Like, but once again, this is just red meat to the base. That's all. People with low IQ, they're gonna suck this right up and be like, yes, Trump is evil, Orange Man bad, and keep going about their day. But you know, sorry about my long-winded intro. And yes, that was an intro, and it was long-winded as hell. But you guys smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. Click the join button, sign up, and become a member. And without any further ado, folks, here is the rest.
Mr. Duke, thanks so much for being here. I want to talk about what Republicans mean when they talk about a balanced budget amendment. From my perspective, they mean that you're going to have to make steep cuts to benefits while rewarding the wealthy with additional tax cuts. And a balanced budget amendment always sounds so simple, but the federal budget is not actually like a household budget. It's not. It doesn't matter how many times we say it. It's not.
You know what? You're right about that. It's not like a household budget, because household budgets can't overspend like the government does. And you guys do that on a consistent basis. Households can't gather the family at the table and say, yeah, let's take a vote and see if we can raise our credit limit on the credit card. They can't do that. They can't introduce an amendment to stop them from spending more money than what they take in, because they physically can't spend more money than what they take in. The government can. And you guys are responsible for being fiscally responsible. And I love Democrats, because the hypocrisy of the Democrats in a committee hearing about fiscal responsibility, about introducing an amendment to stop these very same people from spending in a deficit. Democrats are consistently wanting to increase spending. Oh, well, hang on. How are we going to pay for that? Well, let's increase taxes on the wealthy. But then hang on. That's not going to be enough because it's never enough. We're going to get into that, though. We're going to get into that. Let's keep going.
Mr. Duke, is it possible that this proposed constitutional requirement would endanger Social Security?
Absolutely, it would.
Tell me a little bit more. How would it do that?
So, we have the baby boomers. They worked a bunch of years. And that created surpluses into the Social Security and Medicare trust funds, right? And now we are drawing them down as they're retired, and those trust funds are scheduled to exhaust in the 2030s. But a balanced budget amendment would apply to the whole government, and those accumulated surpluses, from 10, 15 years ago wouldn't count anymore, right? So basically what would need to happen for Social Security and Medicare to continue to pay 100% benefits is you would need to run a bigger surplus in the rest of the government, right? Which is really, really, really hard to do and frankly not realistic, right?
Yeah.
And so Social Security just can't tap its trust fund. And so that basically moves the problem we're going to face 10 years from now about Social Security and Medicare trust funds exhausting from the 2030s to now.
I'm sorry, folks. That's just fear-mongering right there. They could easily introduce the stipulation into that amendment right there that says, nothing that we do with this amendment is going to affect Social Security. They could completely omit that from anything that has anything to do with this. Let's keep going.
Yeah, and it's very serious. And I can think of a simpler way to protect essential programs like Social Security. Is it true that we could just raise taxes on billionaires and corporations?
That certainly would be one
option,
way to. Yeah,
right? It's an option.
It certainly is an option.
It's on the table. We already have that power. Is that right?
According to Article 1, yes.
Yes, exactly, according to Article 1. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. What worries me so seriously about this conversation is that this whole concept of a balanced budget amendment requires us to actually support the Constitution that we have. You can't have this amendment if you don't have respect for the separation of powers, if you don't have respect for the powers of the purse, if you don't have respect for the Constitution as a whole. And under this Republican government, none of these things currently exist. My Republican colleagues have completely given up Congress's Article 1 powers, letting the president do whatever he wants. They have stepped back and let the executive branch run wild. We have invoked the founders a lot today, and I can tell you they would be disgusted by the majority's willingness to cede their power to this president.
And they wouldn't be disgusted by Trans Day of Visibility or Pride Month. Look, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be bigoted, but you brought it there, lady.
President Trump and congressional Republicans have completely abandoned constitutional governance by three co-equal branches. They have allowed the president to illegally refuse to spend money as directed by Congress. They have conducted absolutely zero oversight of misconduct and open corruption across the agencies and the White House. We just spent a month out of session because the Speaker would not stand up to our president and protect our Article 1 powers. Why do I care so much about the Article 1 powers? It's not because of our power, it's because we represent the people. We represent the people who want us to pass those policies that actually benefit them. And we don't have that right now. So this whole conversation about going through this rigmarole of an idea that has a snowball's chance in hell of ever coming to fruition, when we could actually spend our time here protecting our Article 1 powers. I appreciate you being here. I appreciate all the witnesses. I yield back.
Thank the gentlelady from Vermont.
Oh, the hypocrisy is on another level here, folks. It is absolutely just on an absurd level right here because, hang on just a second, let's rewind time back for a minute. What were you guys doing under the Biden administration? Relinquishing your Article 1 powers. Oh my goodness. Like, you could go back and forth all day long on those issues. Congress is broken, folks. The people that run Congress are broken. The staffers that help the people that run Congress are broken. And all of it, needs to be just flushed down the freaking toilet. And let's just put new people back into Congress. That's what I say. Actually, regular Americans who actually will go into Congress thinking we have a job to do. We need to make legislation and policy for the American people instead of this garbage, instead of just political theater 24/7, 7 days a week. 24/7. In other words, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then 7 days a week. Yeah, I said that twice, but I don't really care because it's actually 25 hours a day, 8 days a week with these people. It's way too much, folks. But anyway, let's go back to this whole tax thing. Well, that's always the plan for Democrats. And what do you do, Democrats, when you raise taxes on the rich and it doesn't work? What happens then? Do you raise taxes a little bit more? And then when that doesn't work, do you raise taxes even more? And when that doesn't work, how is that going to work, folks? You can continually raise taxes on the rich, but you're not going to see any increase in revenue for some reason. I can't stand this idea, folks. You have to tax the middle class because the only increases in revenue you can gain from raising taxes is from people that don't know how to get around your tax hikes. They don't know how to work their business or whatever around these tax increases. The middle class, average everyday folks, they can't avoid paying your tax hikes, for crying out loud. These rich people and the corporations and all these places, that's why it doesn't matter, folks. This is why Republicans have given up on raising taxes. They just want to make tax breaks for everybody and get people, cheering for the freaking roof, right? Because, the rich and the wealthy and the corporations or whatever. Sorry, I had to stutter there for a second. These people, they have ways, they have means. They call them loopholes, but that's just tax policy, folks. That's policy these people have writ up that they can use mechanisms, right? You start raising taxes, you'll have one or two of two things happen here. You'll either have these corporations, they'll flee. They'll bring their headquarters somewhere else so they can avoid those taxes, or two, or both, they will take their profits and just reinvest back into the company to avoid paying those taxes, right? Which will result in those companies growing, yes, but they're keeping all the profits within that company, right? That's good for the economy, sure, but that's not going to acquire the outcome that you were looking for increased revenue for the damn government. It'll be very, very minimal. It's not going to cover the expenditures that you're making, right? You've got to make cuts to some of these agencies. Those things need to happen, folks. All these entitlement programs. To me, that's just wasting money because there's so much fraud. People game the system. Look what we've been talking about up in Minnesota, right? With all this $1 billion freaking dollars. That's just 3 schemes from 100 different people that I think have been wrapped up in this. The Somali community, which, by the way, I flubbed a little bit yesterday when I said it was exclusively the Somali community. Now, apparently, out of the 100-something people that were arrested for this, 8 of them were not Somalis. Sorry. Once again, I always take it back when I lie or whatever. Now, I'm having a stuttering problem today for some reason, but, it is what it is. But, this is what's going to happen if you try to raise taxes. And it's not going to look good. You're going to have the poor class cheering for it for some reason, which I don't get that. I don't understand why these people are like, yes, tax the rich. Well, they're going to figure out ways to avoid your taxes. They're either going to flee, or they're going to reinvest. They're going to do something with their money to avoid paying those taxes. That's it. So why try to go this route? It's not going to work. It's not going to acquire the outcome that you're looking for. All right, once again, we could do this all freaking day long. These people are absurd and they don't think about. And what I was talking about earlier with trickle-down economics, it's not just tax hikes or tax breaks for the rich. That's not trickle-down economics. That's part of it, sure. That's not the whole thing, right? It's the entirety of that system. of the corporations, the workers, and all of that, all the way down to the small people at the bottom. When the corporations grow and are profiting, right? Once again, they're growing, they're expanding their companies, they create more jobs, they generate more revenue with increased productivity. This is simple economics, folks. Just simple economics. But anyway, I think I've rambled on for long enough. Y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comments section. I think the Democrats' plan here is just absurd. Like, once again, it's the same thing even with Republicans. Tax breaks. That's not helping too much either, right? I mean, we all love a good tax break, but once again, that's not going to help with government spending. So there's got to be a balance here, folks. There's got to be a fine balance that we find. And I think we've found it. I think they need to work within the means that they gain, right? It is what it is, folks. But y'all let me know what y'all think about all this down in the comment section. Y'all don't forget to smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new around here. That'd be great. Share this video anywhere and everywhere you can. Click the join button. Sign up and become a member. That's the best way to help this channel expand and grow. But, folks, it's the end of the video. So, look, I'll tell you like this. God is never going to put you through something that he knows you can't make it through on your own, right? Any obstacle that is in your way, God knows fully. He's fully aware that you're capable of overcoming whatever is in front of you, folks. So just keep that in mind going forward. Just turn your life over to Jesus, and everything will be smooth sailing for the most part, right? You know at least that anything that comes your way, you have the tools and the capability to handle whatever comes. So just keep that in mind, folks. So you guys try to have a good day. Stay legitical. Peace.